Hello, everybody. My name is Grace, and today we're going to go to the new book, A Christmas Carol, Part 1. Molly was dead, to begin with. There's no doubt whatever about that. The register of his burial was signed by clergymen, the clerk, the undertaker, and the chief mourner. Old Molly was dead as a doornail. Scrooge knew he was dead. Of course he did. How could it be otherwise? Scrooge and he were partners for I don't know how many years. Scrooge was his sole executor, his sole administrator, his sole sign, his sole mystery legatee, his sole friend, and sole mourner. Even Scrooge was not so dreadfully cut up by this sad event, but that he was an excellent man of the business on the very day of the funeral. His and solemnist is it with an undoubted bargain. The mention of Molly's funeral brings me back to the point where I started from. There's no doubt that Molly was dead. This must be distinctly understood, or nothing wonderful to come of the story I am going to relate. Scrooge never painted out old Molly's name. There it stood, years afterward, above the warehouse door, Scrooge and Molly. But he answered both names. It was all the same to him. Oh, he was a tight-fisted hand at the grindstone. Scrooge, a squeezing, wrenching, grasping, scratching, clutching, covetous old sinner, hard and sharp as flint, from which no steel had ever stuck at his generous fire, secret and self-contained, and solitary as an oyster. The cold within him froze, and his old features nibbled his pointed nose, shriveled his cheek, stiffened his gait, made his eyes red, his thin lips blue, and spoke out shrewdly in his grating voice. A frosty rime was on his head and on his eyebrows, and his dreary chin. He carried on low temperature always about him. He iced his office in the dark days and didn't tolerate 1 degree at this Christmas. External heat and cold had a little influence on Scrooge. No warmth could warm, no wintry weather could chill him. No wind that blew was bitterer than he. No falling snow was more intent upon its purpose. No pelting rain is less open than to entreaty. Foul weather didn't know where to have him. The heaviest rain, and snow, and hail, and sleet could boast that advantage over him in only one respect. They often came down handsomely, and Scrooge never did. Nobody ever stopped him in the streets to say, with baffled looks, "My dear Scrooge, how are you? Will you come to see me?" No beggars implored him to bestow a trifle. No children asked him what is o'clock, or man or woman ever once in his life inquired the way to such a place as Scrooge. Even the blindsmen dogs appeared to know him. When they saw him coming on, they would tuck their owners into the doorways and up courts. Then they would wag their tails, though they said, "No eye is better than an evil's eye, dog master." But what did Scrooge care? It was the very thing he liked, to edge his way along the crowded paths of life, wanting all human sympathy to keep his distance. What was he? What was what the knowing ones called nuts to Scrooge? Once upon a time, of all the good days in the year, on Christmas Eve, old Scrooge sat busy in his counting house. There was a cold, bleak, biting weather. He could hear the people in the court outside go whizzing up and down, beating their hands upon their breasts and stamping their feet upon the pavement stones to warm them. The city clock had just gone 3, but it was quite dark already. It had not been light all day. Candles were flaring in the windows of the neighboring offices like ruddy smears upon the palpable brown air. The fog came pouring in at every clink and keyhole. They're so dense without that, although the court was of the narrowest, the houses opposite were mere phantoms, could see dingy clouds and come drooping down, obscuring everything. One might have thought that nature lived hard by, and was brewing on a large scale. The door of Scrooge's counting house was open that he might keep his eye upon his clerk, who in the small little cell beyond, sort of tank, was copying letters. Scrooge had a very small fire, but the clerk's fire was so much smaller that it looks like one coal. He couldn't replenish it, for Scrooge kept the coal box in his own room. So surely that the clerk came in with the shovel, the master predicted it would be necessary for them to part. Whenever the clerk put on his white comforter and tried to warm himself at the candle, in which effort, not being a man of a strong imagination, he failed. "Merry Christmas, Uncle! God save you!" cried in a cheerful voice. It was the voice of Scrooge's nephew, who came upon him so quickly that his first imitation he had of his approach. "Bah!" said Scrooge. "Humbug!" He had so heated himself with rapid walking in fog and frost. This nephew of Scrooge, that he was all in a glow. His face was ruddy and handsome. His eyes sparkled. His breath smoked again. "Christmas a humbug, Uncle," said Scrooge's nephew. "You don't mean that, I'm sure." "I do," said Scrooge. "Merry Christmas." "What right you have to be merry? What reason have you to be merry? You're poor enough." "Come then," returned the nephew gaily. "What right you have to be small? What reason have you to be morose? You're rich enough." Scrooge, having no better answer ready on the spur of the moment, said "bah" again, and followed it up with "humbug." "Don't be cross, Uncle," said the nephew. "What else can I be?" returned the uncle, "when I live in such a world of fools as this." Merry Christmas! Out upon Merry Christmas! What's Christmas time to put a time for paying bills without money, a time for finding yourself a year older, but not an hour richer. If I could work my will, said Scrooge indignantly. Every idiot who goes with Merry Christmas on his lips should be boiled with his own pudding, and buried with a stick of holly through his heart. He should. "Uncle," pleaded the nephew. "Nephew," returned the uncle sternly, "keep Christmas in your own way, and let me keep it in mind." "Keep it," repeated Scrooge's nephew, "but you don't keep it." "Let me have it along then," said Scrooge. "Much good may it do you, much good it has ever done you. There are many things from which I might have derived by good, by which I have not profited, I dare say," returned the nephew. "Christmas among the rest, but I'm sure I always thought of Christmas as a good time, a kind, forgiving, charitable, pleasant time. It's the only time I know of, in the long calendar of the year, where men and women seem by one Constance opened their shut-up hearts freely. They think of people below them, as they really are fellow passengers to the grave, not another race of creatures beyond other journeys, and therefore Uncle Druid has never put a scrap of gold or silver in my pocket. I believe that it has done me good, and will do me good, and I say, God bless it. The clerk and the tank involuntarily applaud, becoming immediately sensible for the impropriety. He poked the fire, extinguished the last frail spark forever. Let me hear another sound from you, said Scrooge, and you'll keep your Christmas by losing your situation. You're quite a powerful speaker, sir, he added, returning to his nephew. I wonder you don't go to Parliament. Don't be angry, uncle. Come, dine with us tomorrow. Scrooge said he would see him. Yes, indeed he did. He went to the whole length of the expression, and said he would see him in the extremity first. But why? Cried Scrooge's nephew. Why? Why did you get married? Said Scrooge. Because I fell in love. Because you fell in love, growled Scrooge. As if there were only thing in the world more ridiculous than a Merry Christmas. Good afternoon. Nay, uncle, but you never came to see me before that happened. What give a reason give it a reason for not coming now? Good afternoon, said Scrooge. I want nothing from you. I ask nothing of you. I cannot be friends. Good afternoon, said Scrooge. I'm sorry with all my heart to find you so resolute. We never had any quarrel, to which I've seen a party. But as I made the trial in homage to Christmas, I keep my Christmas humor to the last. So Merry Christmas, Uncle. Good afternoon, said Scrooge, and a Happy New Year. Good afternoon, said Scrooge. His nephew left the room without an angry word. Notwithstanding, he stopped at the outer door to bestow the greetings of the season on Kirk, who was cold as he was warmer than Scrooge. He returned them cordially. There's another fellow, muttered Scrooge, who overheard him. My clerk was 15 shillings a week, and a wife and family, talking about Merry Christmas. I retired to Bedlam. This lunatic, letting Scrooge nephew feel out, had two other people in. They were portly gentlemen, pleasant to behold, and now stood, with their hats off, in Scrooge's office, their books and papers in their hands. They bowed to him. So that's all of the Christmas Carol Part 1, only half of it, and I will see you on the other half. Bye!